You're listening to WWDB AM Talk 860. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived looking forward. At the intersection of justice and community is The Looking Forward Show. And now, here's your host, Jeffrey Abramowitz.
You're listening to The Looking Forward Show on WWDB AM Talk 860. I am Jeff Abramowitz, your host, and life cannot only be understood backwards, but it must be lived looking forward. At the intersection of justice and community lies The Looking Forward Show. The Looking Forward Show can be found on our YouTube channel. It can be found on all your podcasting venues, and if you want to reach out to the YouTube channel, you can get us at lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. We have an amazing show today. I'm so excited about our guest today. Dr. Sharlana Dash will be joining us from Self Inc. and really excited about this. And she doesn't even know some of the stories that I'm going to be sharing today. But I want to set the tone for all of this because I'm familiar with Self Inc., which does some amazing work in Philadelphia. But what I think we all need to understand is the challenges right now that we face, and not only in Philadelphia, but around the country. I think last year I gave something like 38 keynote addresses across the country. And in every single city that I went to, I always saw the same thing. And it was usually on the ride from the airport to the venue where I was going. And it was usually some tents that were put up and some people that looked like they were obviously struggling with housing insecurity. It is a national problem. Here in Philadelphia, we especially see it. I live in Philadelphia, and I will tell you that in 2023, we saw a 5.2% increase of homelessness in our city. We currently have well over 4,700 people that face housing insecurity, and nationally that number is over 580,000 people in our country. We are a country where 40% of those that face housing insecurity are often in unsheltered locations. They actually don't have enough rooms, enough places, and especially today, I was mindful this past week of coming to work that it was in the teens or below. And when the code blue goes out and we want to get people off the street because it's under 20 degrees and it's not safe, that, boy, man, I just can't imagine living on the street. So I will tell you, as some of you may know, in my journey through life, I had done some time in a federal prison after I was a lawyer for 20 years. And part of my journey after I was incarcerated was I came back to Philadelphia and lived in a shelter and for a little over a year. And during that time, I really got to understand the challenges of men and women that are struggling not only with finding a roof, a place to live, but a place to eat, food that's edible. And actually, bottom line was being treated with some dignity. I remember I walked into a shelter after I had transitioned back and began working. Walked into a shelter just to take a tour because I thought I'd do some work with them, some philanthropy with them. Walked in and took a tour of their bathrooms. And I was so appalled at the shower, I told the director at the time that I would never walk into the facility again. And but for the grace of God, a few weeks later, the director of the facility called me. I don't want to mention him, but he called me and said, we got funding for the bathrooms. Will you come back? And I just wonder, what does it take? It just takes a little bit of dignity to realize that individuals that are battling homeless and insecurity really face the challenges of, that anyone could be in those shoes. And I saw that firsthand. So I have a renewed respect for Dr. Dash and the work that they do at Self Inc. And I'm so glad to have her on our show today because it is, in my mind, one of the biggest unexcusable challenges that faces our country. We spend so much on so many different things that caring for each other and making sure we can live in a safe place with a roof over our head and a decent meal is just not a priority for those that are spending our dollars in our federal and state governments. And gosh, we need to do a better job out there. But I'm so proud of Self Inc. and I'll tell you more about it. But Dr. Dash, how are you?
I am doing well today. Thank you for asking. And, you talked about the work that we do. It is unfortunate that in a first world country like America, we have such alarming rates of homelessness and housing insecurity, where a basic right of everybody should be a roof over their head and a meal to eat. And so the work we do is important. The people we serve are important. And one of the biggest things that I always challenge the team, I come from a history of social work. So when I talk to my team and I go out, I talk to the line staff, I talk to the participants, and I express to them, I'm a social worker. And because I'm a social worker, we have to look at how we can help empower people. I say the goal is not for people to stay in our shelters. The goal is for them to become self-sufficient and get the resources they need to leave us and not have to return. If they have to return, that's okay, but I want to help people become self-sufficient. And so, coming from a system where I was in child welfare, where families were displaced and young people were separated from parents at times, housing was an issue. So in a country this great with such vast resources, it troubles me that we have this many people living on the street. We have this many people living in cars. We have this many people living on subways. It troubles me. So I challenge the staff that every day we do the work that we do because everybody deserves a good meal, a roof over their head, somewhere to just be safe and to be treated with dignity and kindness.
So we are going to talk about that, Doctor, because I know you got a lot to say about this, and I want to really drill down on it. But you've been with Self Inc. Since 2022, so congratulations. You and I both fighting the new CEO battles of learning where all the restrooms are and who all our staff are. Kind of remarkable. But you did serve with the city of Philadelphia for 21 years and as a social work manager for the city, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty remarkable, long journey with the city, and you've done some incredible things. One of the things I was reading about, which so impressed me, was not only your commitment to public service, but also Dr. Dash and Friends serving seniors and veterans. And I had a chuckle because, man, what a great, can you tell us a little about that project?
Sure. So in 2016, I saw a documentary on food insecurity, and it troubled me. And it talked about one of the growing populations of people suffering from food insecurity with senior citizens. And I cook. I'm a cook by nature. I come from one of 8. Mommy caters. She cooks. And I would have a party every year and feed 50 to 70 of my friends. I would cook for 2 days and everybody would come and eat. So after seeing that documentary, I wanted to go out and feed people in the community. I was finishing my PhD. So I said to my friends, I said, you know what? In 2018, I said, instead of cooking and having a party for you all, I'm going to cook. But we're going to go out and serve seniors. And my friend said, okay. So I cooked for 2 days. I bought the food. I said to my friends, I'll buy the food and cook, but I need you to do me one favor. They said, what? I said, bring a gift. So we found a senior apartment complex. So what we did that was different. Nursing homes are fully staffed with staff and people. The seniors living on their own in senior apartment complexes don't have necessarily access to the same resources. So I found a place. I literally went on Facebook, said I need some seniors to serve. My friend said, okay. We went out and served. And we got there, and my brother DJs professionally. I took a DJ, I took a game master, and for 3 or 4 hours, we just went and loved on them. And the people said to me, who are you? I took 30 volunteers. I said, I'm Dr. Dash. They said, who are these people? I said, my friends. Very generic name. We would go out and serve. So every other month, we would find another location, and we would find seniors and veterans. And I would tell my friends, I'll cook the food and buy it. I need a gift from you. And we would take gifts. To the veterans, we were mindful to take things such as socks, deodorant, soap. For the seniors, we would do the same thing, and we would take them puzzle books to help keep their minds keen, mechanical pencils, something to keep them occupied. And my friends would write a note inside, just that we're thinking of you. And we would go out and serve. And people would ask every time we went, who are you? And it really became Dr. Dash and Friends serving our seniors and veterans. And in February of 2023, Channel 6 featured us. And we went, and it always troubles me because we go out and serve. And some of the seniors were walking by the complex, and they were in the complex in their community room. And we would invite them in. They said, oh, no, we can't afford it. I said, sure you can. They said, no. I said, it's free. They said, it's free. I said, it's love. And so we would serve. So COVID happened. And literally I would go out and serve people. COVID happened, and we couldn't go out and serve the same way. But people were in need. So during COVID, I said to my friends, guess what? We're going to do the same thing. But instead of cooking a meal, we're going to do COVID survival bags. So things during COVID, toilet paper, soap, mask, things that were hard to find. I would say to my friends, we're going to get bags together and drop them off. And we would literally package the bags because I couldn't get my friends to come help because it was COVID. So I would get the stuff, package the bags, my kids in the house with me, and we would drop them off. We wouldn't, because I didn't want to engage the seniors or put anybody at risk. We would serve the veterans. And people would say, why do you do it? I said, to show love because people need help. And that's how Dr. Dash and friends, we would go out and serve. And people would ask, why do we do it? It's like, why not? People need help. And people would try to offer us money. I'm like, I don't want money. Now my friends would give me money to help buy things because it was actually more like buying food and cooking was cheaper than doing bags of 100 bags full of toiletries. And I never forget there was finding toilet paper was hard. And I literally went to the store and I went to 2 or 3 stores and I needed more toilet paper to put in the bags. And I reached out and I kind of said on Facebook, one of my friends was like, I literally went to the store and had like a 30-pack of toilet paper. And it seems like something insignificant, but these were things that people were having trouble finding. And I wanted to pick up. And I went and picked it up from her and she donated it and we did the bags and dropped them off. So Dr. Dash and Friends Serving Our Seniors and Veterans really started from that. I saw a documentary on food insecurity and I cook. So I wanted to go and just provide a meal, some leftovers, just to let people know we love them.
So one of the slogans I live by is a slogan by a saying by Walt Whitman, and was recently on a Ted Lasso episode on TV not long ago. And he said, Walt Whitman quoted him and said, "We should all be curious and not judgmental." And I think a lot of times when it comes to housing insecurity, we need to be curious. We need to ask the questions of what do people need and how can we support you better. But I'm curious from your perspective, and we could talk through it a little bit, is, why are we in this situation today? What is it that's driven our homeless population to increase across our country to just a staggering kind of almost a pandemic rate?
So the immediate right now, and what we're seeing with the increase, remember that during COVID, there were rent moratoriums across the country where people did not, if you didn't have income or sustained income, and a lot of people in a lot of industries lost employment, lost their jobs. So during that moratorium, landlords were not allowed to put people out on the street. That got lifted. Think about it. We went through almost a 3-year period where if you didn't have, think about people in the restaurant industry, think about industries that were greatly travel industry, that were greatly impacted, where people were working and making ends meet. They no longer could afford to sustain a roof over their head. They no longer could afford food on the table. So think about once that lifted, it was a 3-year period, it almost lasted. Landlords were then able to say, I don't have to keep you here. I no longer have to still house you. So people were finding themselves in the street. Another thing that happened with that, the market, is skyrocketed. Like the market as far as housing, as far as rental places. Think about apartments and places that were usually somewhat affordable. Think about how, because what happened in my mind, everybody's trying to recoup the money they lost. Think about the industry that was impacted. So now, you have people who were owning properties, trying to recoup money they lost. You have people, this is my personal belief, trying to now recoup and recover, because remember, they also were at a loss. They no longer. So now you look at rents in the city, how it's just skyrocketing. Things that were affordable are no longer affordable. So I think that's a part of the impact of what we see. Now, longstanding, we have to understand that there are many things that can impact homelessness. Understand that people have substance use disorders. There are people who struggle with substance use disorder who are not getting treatment, maybe not access to treatment for lack of health insurance. So it means that they don't have access to treatment, then they're not getting the help they need to get better. So it means it impacts their housing. Think about the economy. Think about employment. Think about what minimum wage is. If you're a person working minimum wage and you have a family, are you really able to sustain them with the economy now and to find affordable housing? Think about people with mental health issues. Again, not diagnosed or treated. All these are things that impact housing insecurity.
Yeah, I don't think it's one thing. I know that and I know that there are a lot of these pieces. I mean, poverty in general. We just have not reached a point where we found good solutions for helping people that have mental illness, that people that have suffer from those substance abuse challenges. And when years ago, when we shut down all our behavioral health hospitals, all we did was we put them in prisons and jails across the country. And that was the boost in all of the mass incarceration problem we have. And I know that you deal with a lot of people that have been through the justice system, and you see a number of people that are facing insecurity as they come home. And I'm wondering, what have you been noticing? Any changes in people as they come home and struggling to find that next leap into housing, as well as possible career opportunities?
Without a doubt. So I'm finding that it seems, I specifically have one of our sites where a lot of people are returning citizens. And I'm finding that we're getting a younger population coming into our shelters that don't have access to housing. They're returning home with no resources. And with that also comes, so, there are many employers that if you have a record, the viability of getting a job or the feasibility of it diminishes significantly. And, think about it. And I believe there are laws that they've passed and look at the past where on a job application, you have to say whether or not you're a felon. And for certain things, you cannot get hired. So that also impacts someone's ability to work. One of the things that Self does, we actually look to employ participants when we can. We look to see, why not be a resource? They're experiencing housing insecurity. We have participants who actually work with us to help work with fellow participants to provide services and resources. But that's one of the biggest challenges. I'm finding there are a lot of younger people coming home as returning citizens, but likewise also having challenges finding employment. Think about it again. Minimum wage, I believe the living wage in Philadelphia recently got passed. The city is $15.71. Well, even the income and wages you're making in the city drastically changes and increase as you go into the county. So if I can't get out to the county to maybe make 21, 22, maybe seems not significant, but it is when it comes to how much money you're able to take home and then provide for yourself or your family makes a big difference. So think about that with the living wage. It's a living wage, but is it a living wage that's affordable for housing?
So I got to tell you the story. So you, as I mentioned, I did some time away, came back to Philadelphia, and lived in a shelter for a bit. And I worked my way back, became a director at Community Learning Center, which is adult literacy agency. It's now Beyond Literacy. And then became an executive director at JEVS Human Services in Philadelphia, and transitioned from JEVS to the PD Green program where I am now. But at my time at JEVS, one of the things I did was start a program called Looking Forward, which was a reentry program. And I had been invited to the Otley House and was brought into the Otley House to talk to the men and also at Station House to share with them how they could find job opportunities and use the career link that we oversaw both at Suburban Station to help them find jobs. And I probably was there. I probably had a good dozen or so visits to the Otley House. And every time I went there, I was amazed at the dignity that people were, that they felt. And I remember a few of them, I often, when I would go, I'd circle it around the meal so I could talk to the men that were there and kind of get a read for what they were interested in and find out what was going on and how we could help them. But I came there at one visit to the Otley House, and they brought me downstairs. You had to put up a computer lab there for people to use. And I was like, man, you're getting it. This is what they need. Like, you can't get a job without being online, file an application, and then I think we even put some people there to help tutor them for resume building and stuff like that to help them. Just amazing program. Can you talk to us a little about the work that Self Inc. does and how you manage? You have a number of facilities. I also we'll talk about Miss Barbara's house too, because I'm really curious about that. But I'm curious about the work that you do and how do you keep all these balls juggling? And what's your overall arching mission that you have in supporting the men and women you work with?
So we are the largest provider of emergency housing in the city of Philadelphia for single men. And we currently have 5 shelters for men, 4 for men, 1 for women. And then we have 36 scattered houses. We also have a day program and an after hours program as well. So we have cooperative housing. So the overall mission of Self is to strengthen and empower lives in the future. What does that mean? What does it look like? It means meeting people where they are, but giving them the resources to get from that place to what their next is and allowing them to shape it. One of the things you mentioned is a computer lab. And so one of the things I noticed, when I first came to Self, I went out and started going out to the sites. And somebody said, well, Dr. Dash, administration doesn't come down here and do this all the time. I said, but I do. I'm a social worker. I have staff say to me, I talk to the participants and talk to them about how do they feel they're treated? What is it that they need? Tell me how you can be better supported. We have an awesome case management team, and they're on site in all of our locations. We have case management, we have our participant advocates, and we have our directors. And one of the things that I love about Self, even when I communicate with the staff, is that the important things that we do when we encounter our participants, and that's respect them and realize we're here to serve. Everybody is to be respected. And I'm not going to lie, there have been instances when I've talked to participants and they voice concerns. I'll go to the director and have a conversation about the concerns. And I express to staff, when new staff hired, I come and talk to them. We talk about the work we do and why it's important. But I tell them, if you hear nothing that I say to you, understand and respect is a minimum. Everybody deserves respect. And I tell people what I don't tolerate. And I tell them it's personal. If you're disrespectful to participants, don't see me and then, oh, Dr. Dash. I am a human being. We are human beings. And everybody should be treated the same way. And and if I encounter an issue, I go to the source and deal with it, because we're all human beings. And we deserve that dignity that we're all entitled to. So that's something that I take to heart. When you talk about the services, we have our computer lab. One of the things I'm in the process of looking for, we have a housing specialist, but I want a job development specialist. We recently have been working with the unions to get apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeships for our participants. A part of getting stability is economic stability in order to be able, so we can get you a house. But if I get you a house without a means to sustain that house, how have I really helped you? I said one day, listen, why do we have a job development specialist? They said, job development. I said, to help people find jobs, find training, find apprenticeships. I said, because we have to give them the other piece, help them with the other piece of the puzzle. So that way, once they get housing, they can sustain it. So those are just some of the things that we're doing itself. But for me, it's about being intentional. When you said, how do I do it? I don't do it. I have an entire staff of people that's here doing it with me. I do not do this by myself. I have an entire staff of people that every day show up. They show up to provide resources and support to the people we serve.
So it's amazing. And I think one of the things that our audience needs to hear is, if you're a CEO or a manager or a supervisor of anyone, that it really takes you going and seeing for yourself what's going on and talking to your customers. There's a great saying, the customer's not always right, but they're always the customer. And that's true. And it really helps you understand from a leadership perspective of really what works and what doesn't, and figure out how you can better serve them. Because that's ultimately what you're trying to do, is help them, guide them to a future where they can be successful. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Dr. Dash, we're going to be talking to you about Miss Barbara's house, because I'm super curious about that. And I also want to talk to you about, we're going to be making the invisible visible, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. You're listening to the Looking Forward Show, and we'll be right back.
You've been listening to the Looking Forward Show on WWDB-AM Talk 860. If you'd like to be a guest on the Looking Forward Show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, you can reach us at lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. This program is being sponsored in part by the PD Green Program. The PD Green Program provides education, tutoring, and support for men and women that have been touched by our justice systems. To reach or get more information about the PD Green Program, you can reach them at greenprogram.org. And now, back to the show.
We are back at Looking Forward. You're listening to WWDB AM Talk 860, and you can also listen to us on 97.5 HD2 FM. If you want to get in touch with us, lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. You can check us out on our YouTube channel and also all of your favorite podcasting venues. So we're back with Dr. Dash from Self Inc. I'm super excited about this conversation. And Dr. Dash, I want to start off with something that I read recently about Miss Barbara's house. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about what the project's all about.
I come from a history of child welfare. I come from DHS. And while sometimes young people are in child welfare, there's a separation that may occur from their family. And so there are different programs where young people can go into independent living and get housing. But one of the challenges I find, while systems work, systems also have imperfections. And so there's sometimes young people that age out of the system. And while they're in the system, they're employed and they have a higher level of resources. When they get on their own, they're not able to maintain it. So coming from child welfare, it challenged me, because I would see that sometimes these young people you would see later on, and they're on the street and they're homeless. So when I came here, I came to Self and I interviewed with the board, and they said, what is your vision? I said, to help eradicate youth homelessness. And they said, eradicate? I said, yeah, I come from child welfare. And for me, the challenge is to develop something a little different with the supports after a certain age. So people think at 18, you're this magic number of grown. But 18, at 18, I wasn't this whole little adult ready to run my life. So we somehow think that kids at 18, young adults, suddenly have the answers. They still need support. Studies show that that 18 to 24 age bracket, they're still developmentally growing. So even in child welfare systems, you can be in the system till you're 21. After that, you're a bona fide adult. Not at all. You still need help. So, I got here and I mentioned that's what I wanted to work on. The board said, okay, they understood it. But Self had just lost its leader and the team needed some team building and supports. Well, 3 weeks after I got here, Mayor Kinney had an announcement in his reception room that the city got $8.9 million for youth homelessness. I came back to the office and said to the team, we're going to get funded. So what I began to do was I began to have a roundtable. At the roundtable were participants from our shelter. I reached out and asked our directors, do you have any young men, young women who are in that age group who would like to sit down and have conversations? And we began a roundtable with about 10 participants and 4 or 5 staff. Every other week we sat down and we began to ask the questions, what is it that you think you needed to have in place to possibly hinder this part of your journey or to make it look different for you or to be supported? And we sat down for 6 months. We wrote a program. Well, we applied for funding. In June, we received an announcement that we got funded. One of the things we did near the end, we began to talk about the program in the name. And someone said to me, what inspired you? Who inspired you? I said, my mother. They said, who's your mother? I said, Miss Barbara. They said, why did she inspire you? I'm one of 8. My mother fed. But I talked about Dr. Dash and friends. I told you my mother cooked. My mother fed the community. Mommy took people in. People lived with us. And so when people ask me what inspired me, I said, my mother. Mommy took care of everybody. Mommy fed everybody. But more importantly, mommy showed people love. So for me, Miss Barbara's house is personal because it's not about me, but it's really about serving the community. I needed this house to be a place that young people can come in and know that no matter where they are, they're supported, they're understood, and they're loved. So when people ask me, what is Miss Barbara's house? It's a place of acceptance. When people ask me, what does Miss Barbara's house mean? It's a place where young people can dream. I feel like we live in a society where so much is going on in society with violence and anger that young people aren't taught to dream anymore. And so when I say dream, I say dream. Have a vision as to what you want your life to look like. And that's what I want Miss Barbara's house to be. A place where they're supported, but they understand that you can dream. You really can dream. You can really dream and work hard. And whenever that dream is for you, the goal is to help you manifest that.
It's an amazing project. It's something that, that is so needed in our city because our young folks today are struggling out there and they're often couch surfing, living in cars, living with friends up until the time they get kicked out and then they're finding their way onto the streets. And can you tell us, so what makes Barbara's house different, Miss Barbara's house different than just any place else that's out there, any other shelters that are out there?
So Miss Barbara's house isn't a shelter. It's a transitional housing program for 6 young people. And in that space, we were intentional to have wraparound services provided on site. So where sometimes you have young people in independent living or different programs where during the day staff is there and that's it. Well, think about it. If you're a young adult and life's life and happening, what happens in the evening hours? We need somebody to talk to. What happens? We need somebody just to help decompress you with stuff's going on. So we were intentional that we have staff 24 hours. We were intentional that we reached out to people like the union. The actual union, the builder's trade, actually renovated the house for us for Miss Barbara's house. But we also connected to them so we could get things like pre-apprenticeship programs in place. Because remember, economic security is a part of how people are sustained and able to make it on their own. So we were intentional about forging those partnerships so that way they can have the supports they're needed all the time. Not just, because think about it, if you come home after work, even as adults, their day, you come home, you have a rough day and you need time to decompress or someone to talk to. We were intentional that we have people on site to actually work with them, to actually be there to support them. Something as simple as community. The power of community is awesome. What do I mean? We've set the program up so we have Sunday dinners. So all of them can come sit at the table together and cook the home-cooked meal and just get to relate one to another and talk about where they are in their journey. So that's what's different. Miss Barbara's house really is not, it's not a shelter. It's a transitional housing program, but the whole point is to provide a home.
I just love it. That's just remarkable. Just incredible that, you're getting it. Like I I believe in the term "it takes a village." Like I don't think you can just give one person something. I think it takes a village. It takes a lot of people coming together to fill these gaps. And the world that I live in is a world of in the center of education, workforce development, and criminal justice, and making education the center. But they need the supports. They need some place to lay their head at night in a safe way and feel safe and secure. That that they have an opportunity, that they have a chance moving forward. And a lot of young people today just don't feel that. And you're giving that back to them. And that's a remarkable thing. I'm curious about a few things. One is, when it comes to housing and housing insecurity, I know that a lot of agencies have gotten funding for COVID over the past few years. And I'm also hearing, as I travel around the country and talk to agencies that are doing good work, that they're really fearful what's going to happen in 24, because a lot of the federal funding is now dried up or drying up. And they're going to be resorting to oftentimes having to cut budgets and look at things a different way, because some of the funding that came down helped to support and drive some of these organizations to do the great work they were doing. And I'm wondering, and one of the reasons that I asked the question is because I'm curious for how people can support SelfInc, but also do you envision a future where there's going to be financial struggles and making ends meet, or continue to do the great work like at Miss Barbara's house?
So the reality is funding. We are heavily funded from city government, and Miss Barbara's house actually was a federally funded program. It was our first federal grant that we received, so we're excited about that. The reality is that funding is something that can be, that cannot necessarily, can dry up or can get diminished. But I also believe that if you do the work, set the stage, and be outstanding, I also believe in a higher power that God to provide. And I'm not lofty. I tell my team, you have to set the stage for what it is you want. But don't just say you want it. You got to prepare and do the work to make it happen. So I say that to say we're constantly looking for ways that we can partner with organizations to provide not just funding, but to provide resources. In addition to that, we're looking for ways to grow and expand the scope of the services, because with that, you open up other avenues of funding. We literally are looking into the process. One of the board members mentioned we have libraries on site. I said, why not? Because instead of just having televisions for participants, why not open up, the opportunity for other things? So we're always looking for other resources. If people would like to donate, again, we also have a 501c3. So if someone wanted to donate, they can go to selfincorp.org. That's SELFINCORP.org. It's right on our website. You can donate. And the money will be earmarked Miss Barbara's house. So Miss Barbara's house, the union renovated it and donated over $30,000 worth of labor to get the house renovated. So then we needed some things that are not covered in the grant. Like we needed some things that weren't covered. So you know what I did? My friends, just like Dr. Dash and friends, I went on Facebook. I said, hey, people knew we were opening. I said, I need stuff in this house from Miss Barbara's house for these young people. So we created a wish list. I went on a wish list, and stuff started coming in. So people, clearly, if you go on our website, we also have a wish list, because in addition to Miss Barbara's house, we have a LIFT, which is the other aspect of the program, which is actually rapid rehousing for another 12 individual young men or women. And likewise, they're living on their own. So with their homes, they need to be furnished with sheets, towels, washcloths, bed linen. So if you like to donate, you can do that. You also can call us at 215-496-9610. Now, mind you, not just Miss Barbara's house. We have 5 shelters. We have men and women. We also, people, we are accepting clothing donations. People, my son, every time he comes home from New York, he has a bag of clothes. I'm like, you can drop it directly off. So I'm stopping by the shelter, to drop clothes off. Clothes with new tags. He's like, Mom, I have clothes. I, want to donate. So people are also able to donate their clothing items. I have friends who'll call and say, hey, can you use clothes? I say, sure, we can, because we serve hundreds of people.
It's amazing. And I think that we're definitely going to be posting stuff on our website, and we'll get it out part of the show so people know where they can go to get it. You also have a food cupboard and food distribution center, correct?
We have food distribution center services also at Otley House once a week, where people can come by and get food. Our food services director, Mr. Ricky, oversees that. So if they call the same main number, 215-496-9610, we'll give them the date and time. It's once a week, and I believe it's the same time every week, but I don't know if Ricky changes it. They can come by and get food from the food cupboard. So in addition, the other thing, that we prepare meals at all of our sites, 3 meals a day for everyone. I promise you, around the holidays, we were also very specific. Think about times of the year, just mentioned, they're very challenging. Holiday times can be challenging. So we were very intentional to holiday time, have a full holiday menu for Christmas, full holiday menu for Thanksgiving, have cookouts. We're very intentional because the thing is, one of the things you mentioned earlier was about invisibility. And I kind of said the very first time I spoke when I came to Self, I said, a part of my job is to make people see those they want to act like they're invisible. I remember one of the first things I said was to help people open their eyes. People walk by every day acting like we don't see people on the street, but they're there.
So, Dr. Dash, that was exactly what I was going to say. It wasn't until I went away and when I came home and I lived in a shelter that I began to recognize the men and women that I've walked past all my life that had always been invisible to me. I just didn't see them. And now there's not a day that goes by that I can't stop and engage. And it's not about giving money. It's about recognizing that they're human, that they're facing challenges and asking how I can help. One of my favorite stories about coming home was we were down at 2nd and Market Street, just had a nice dinner, and we had some leftovers, and we ran Stephen was his name. He was sitting out on the corner at 2nd and Market, and he had a little sign that said, need some support or whatever. And I stopped and I was with my partner, and I asked him, I said, Stephen, what do you need? And I said, we have some leftovers. Are you hungry? And he said, no, it's Saturday night. I got a full belly. And I said to him, well, how can I help you? And he said, I need a guitar. And I said, a guitar? I said, why do you need a guitar? He said, well, I was living in a shelter and somebody took my guitar. And I said, I was so touched by the way he told the story that I said, I gave him my card and I said, call me on Monday. And he called me. I got a call Monday on my phone. It was from a New York number I didn't recognize. I picked it up. And he said, Mr. A, it's Stephen. And I said, what kind of, is Stephen from Saturday night? He said, yeah. I said, where are you? He said, I'm at 15th and Market. I said, my office is around the corner. I'll be right there. So I walk over to Stephen and talk to him, and he told me a story. So Stephen was a sous chef in Philadelphia at one of the best restaurants, a Stephen Star restaurant here in the city. And Stephen, as is not uncommon in the restaurant industry, got touched by heroin and started having a challenge and decided that he needed to do something about it. So he put himself into a facility. He had no family. His mom and dad had died, no brothers and sisters. And he said, Mr. A, I put myself in a facility and I'm doing better now, but I don't really have a home and I don't have a place to go or anything. And I don't have my knives because my knives are all gone, but the guitar helped me make money so I could get some, so I could actually make a few bucks and hopefully get my knives back. So I never do this, but unlike you, I usually don't ask for things on Facebook. I'll usually reach out privately to friends, but I reached out on Facebook, and within a half an hour, I have a huge network, and I had 15 guitars, and I called and got one nice one with an amp and everything, and I dropped it off to him, and we found him a place to get a shower because he said he couldn't get an interview and get a job because he didn't have a place to shower. So anyway, we helped him find a job, but I just imagine to myself, and I haven't talked to Stephen in a little bit, but I just imagine what Stephen's life would be like had I kept walking that night. And the impact that we all can have just doing the smallest of things, but asking questions and just seeing how you can support people. The one thing that's super clear to me is that it's not going to go away on its own. This is a situation that's not going to go away. I live in Fishtown, and I go down into Kensington once in a while and see the challenges in Kensington, and it just is beyond my comprehension why we can't do something to help the men and women that struggle in the Kensington corridor so badly. And when I come across people like you, that just this golden, just this gem that's just doing amazing work, and I know it's not you, and I know it's your team as well, and you have some remarkable people, and I've had some good friends that work for your company in the past. What is it that we could be doing to get people to make the invisible visible?
I'm going to touch on something also. You mentioned about Stephen needing a shower or somewhere. We also have the Mike Henson Resource Center. And Mike Henson we have a day program in the Resource Center where if you just need to go in and take a shower, get a meal, you can also go there. It's at 17th and Lehigh. You don't need reservations to go there. You can drop in. take a shower, you can wash your clothes, laundry's there, it's free. So just also letting people know that there is a resource. There are other places who itself has My Kids and Resource Center at 17th and Lehigh. You can go take a shower, you can wash your laundry, you can get a meal, just to let people know that even in those situations, there is hope and there's help. Now, when you ask, what is it we can do? Well, one of the main things we can do is talk to our elected officials. And, I tell people, talk to people who help impact policy to make changes. And, there are things people say you can say, you can't say, but I go and I talk to elected officials. I'm in meetings and I go and say, I need help. Because the reality is, this has to be something that we all have to open our eyes and see. It starts with the individual, but it becomes something the collective community addresses. It's not a problem. It's not my problem. It is our problem. It is our problem because a society that fails to take care of its own is a society setting itself up to fail. You mentioned it takes a village. Are we not all a part of the village? Are we not all a part of the village? So what we can do is talk to those who have the power and authority to impact change the policy, to provide resources, to channel the funding to go towards homelessness, housing insecurity, affordable housing. I mean, what is affordable housing? That's like a whole thing. What is affordable housing? I'm not going to lie, I walk to Philadelphia and sometimes I'm in dread because I feel like we're trying to become a mini New York. Every empty space we're throwing up, but we're not throwing up affordable houses. We're throwing condos everywhere. We're throwing that the average person cannot afford. So what we really need is for people to be diligent in speaking to those who impact policy and change to say that, we really have to make affordable housing available to those who are low income because everybody cannot afford the affordable housing we have out there.
And it can be done. I mean, there's places like Austin, there's places of parts of New York where for every one unit that's brought up, there's got to be one affordable unit that's attached to it. That is low income, that's open to everybody, that is affordable, that opens it up. I'm going to tell you something that I haven't really told anyone except for my partner Lisa, which is that I drive down Columbus Boulevard every now and then, and on Columbus Boulevard, right on the water, is a really old, antiquated, beat up cruise ship that's been sitting there. And my dream one day is to get enough funding to convert that into transitional housing for people and actually have a culinary kitchen in there and really give people their own space, their own units, so that they can not only survive, but they could thrive and do it with dignity and respect in a nice environment. And I'm not there yet, but maybe someday.
I tell people, so even Women's Barbershops, when we started, and we've written and developed programs to have a housing program for young women who are survivors of sex trafficking and domestic violence. We're in the process of seeking funding. And I told my team, some of the mindsets. I believe that if you set the stage and do the work and build it, it will happen. I said, but you got to set the stage. It's not just believing, but you got to do the work to go with it. I said, what do you mean? We're in the process of developing a youth services division. And somebody said, why? People can go in shelter from the age of 18 to 70. But don't you know that the needs are different of an 18 to 24-year-old? They're very different. So the reality is, just like young people need certain things to develop, why would we not think in a shelter system, you have all kind of great people. Yes, some people are not that great. But the reality is, if you take a young person who's still developing and put them in an environment where there's support, but there's also the probability of running into people who are not quite done recovery, are not quite, they likewise can get connected to people. And likewise, we become associated by those we're around, we take on the habits. So I'm saying that all that to say that there's a different need. So I'm in the process of developing a youth services division. I say because our young people need something different. In addition to the fact, if we can grab them now and get them the supports they need, give them economic, it'll keep them from coming back into our system and becoming lifers. Because homelessness, likewise, is the cycle that some people relive in their life many, many times. You'll find the average person, I used to work in domestic violence, and they would say the average woman leaves 7 times before she finally doesn't return. Well, guess what? Homelessness there are people who live in a cycle of homelessness where the average person you talk to have been in house 4, 5, 6 times because they've never received not just support, but received treatment. Because homelessness is a factor it's something that exist because they're under other underlying things that often occur. You just spoke of the story about a young man who was very talented but had a substance use disorder. And so that not addressed can create, a situation where you find yourself homeless. So many times they're the underlying things that have to be addressed. So it's getting ample support to help get them from their place and to be willing to get their support.
Well, we're going to take a really quick break, and then when we come back, I'm giving you advance warning, Dr. Dash. My advance warning is on my show, I have a magic wand here. I'm going to show you in a minute, but my magic wand is going to be handed to you, and I wanted you to wave it and make your wish of what we're going to do to change tomorrow. So you're listening to the Looking Forward Show. We'll be right back.
You've been listening to the Looking Forward Show on WWDB-AM Talk 860. If you'd like to be a guest on the Looking Forward Show, or if you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, you can reach us at lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. This program is being sponsored in part by the PD Green Program. The PD Green Program provides education, tutoring, and support for men and women that have been touched by our justice systems. To reach or get more information about the PD Green Program, you can reach them at greenprogram.org. And now, back to the show.
We are back at the Looking Forward Show on WWDB AM Talk 860 and 97.5 HD FM. Jeff Abramowitz here. So glad I'm here with Dr. Dash at Self Inc. So excited. Dr. Dash, I promised you, this is my magic wand in front of you, and I'm handing it to you virtually. But Doctor, give it to us. If you had a wish that you need to make for in the work and space that you're doing, obviously self-help. Self Inc. is doing some great work, and the programs that you have are remarkable. So you should be so proud of your work with Miss Barbara's House, and just incredible. But if you had a wand, you could make your wish. What would you wish for when you talk about the work that you do in Philadelphia?
What I would wish for, if I had this magic wand, I would wish that we all take an active part as citizens to help eradicate homelessness, that we all make it a personal issue, that we all recognize that is my brother, that is my sister, that we all make it a point that we're going to be active. And if everyone can't, it's more than just going out and giving somebody a meal, as you said, but it's about really being a support and a resource. And one of the ways we do that is to advocate. One of the ways we do that as a community is to advocate. See, I advocate, one of my wishes would be to get funding to create programs, but the greater wish is that I have a community that's enlightened and understand that we have the power to bring the change we want to see, to recognize it is our own responsibility. It is not just, I used to be a shop steward, and I would go talk to people and they would go, well, you're the union. I'm like, we're the union. I'm not the union. I am a shop steward, but we're the union. What am I saying? I'm saying that we are the community, and that we had a time where the village really rose up and had a voice. I need the village to use their voice to help eradicate homelessness, and actually to be the resource and to speak to those in power to help impact change. So my wish is to have the community to rise up and decide that we're going to do this together.
All right. So I'm going to give you my wish. All right. Here's my wish when it comes to this. My wish is something that I took from a good friend of mine. His name is Keith Baldwin. He is the CEO of Spikes Trophies in Philadelphia. And Keith wrote a book recently called The Year of Firsts. And during COVID, for an entire year, every single day, he did something he had never done before in his life. And my wish in this discussion would be to do one of Keith's wishes, which is he went out one day, and for an entire day, he lived on the streets of Philadelphia for 24 full hours. He lived at a time when he picked a day, and it was cold out, and it was nasty, and weather was bad. But for a full 24 hours, he lived on the street to understand the challenges that someone that was homeless. Now, he probably didn't get a full picture of the whole thing, but he got a taste. He got a taste enough to see what it was like to have to find a place to go to the bathroom, to find a meal because he had no money with him, to find a safe place where he could sleep, to worry about how he was going to get different places, and all of those things. And I think, look, for me, it took me to go to prison for 5 years to really understand a side of the world that I had never seen before, a side that's often built in white privilege, a side that we need to open our eyes to and to recognize that we all are part of the solution. We just have to step up and be part of it. The other wish that I have for you is that you and I reconnect at some point because, the agency that I'm a CEO at and PD Green Program, which is a sponsor of this program, it does educational tutoring and works one-on-one with individuals to get them smarter so they can achieve their goals. And that's something that, you could never take away from someone. You may be able to take away their home, their car, whatever else, but you can't take away education. It's something that makes people smarter and gives them a pathway, both the youth and just about everyone in the world. It gives them a sense of real being and brings that humanity back. And I love all of that you're doing. Just remarkable. If people wanted to do something for self, we talked about a lot of things today, but how can they get involved with your organization? How can they support the work you're doing?
So if people are interested in volunteering, someone called me last night. I was at a meeting and I saw the message. I called her later and I said, "Hi, would you like?" She said, "How can I volunteer with you?" I said, "I'd love to have you." And so we began to talk. I said, people often like to drop off food. We have a food services director. That's great. So what is it we would love to have? I would love to have people volunteer to come and actually, like you just mentioned, there is knowledge that people have that you can share with someone. Sometimes, again, one of the things I find my seniors, I literally have, when I go out, it's just have a game master, have time to play. So if people would love to volunteer, I'd love them to call 214-496-9610 or go on our website, selfincorp.org. That's selfincorp.org. On there is a contact form. Put on there, just put your information and say you'd like to come volunteer. So what I would love is for people to actually come and volunteer. No, I don't need everybody to cook because we have a food services director. I don't need everybody. We would love your closing donations. But sometimes it's just spending time with people. One of the things that I'm told, and we have a population that's growing of older people in our shelters. And one of the things when I go out to my seniors, they say, we really love that you all just come and spend time with us. Why can't you likewise come do that? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a legacy. Everybody have a life. Why not come and share in that process of theirs? It just helps support who they are and where they're at. So volunteering is another way to come and help support us.
Great stuff. Great stuff. One last time, they want to reach SelfInc. How do they do it?
They can either call us at 215-496-9610, or they can email us. They can actually go on our website at selfincorp.org. That's selfincorp.org. Selfincorp.org. That's another way that you can reach us.
Dr. Dash, thank you so much. Big shout out to Sharon Flanagan also for helping get this all orchestrated from your end. But you've been listening to the Looking Forward Show. If you want to be on the show, or if you have a topic you'd like us to hit on, you have something you'd like to share, just reach out. It's lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. The show airs every Tuesday on WWDB, AM Talk 860, and on 97.5 HD2 FM. And again, we're a show about community, where community meets justice, and we really want to hear from you. We want the voice of our community. We have a tremendous number of guests that are coming up in the future, really super excited about. And, it's shining the light on organizations like SelfInc that is the purpose of our show and the work of Dr. Dash. And we encourage you to reach out, go and volunteer, walk in their shoes, become part of that village and part of the solution and not part of the problem. And if you do that, I promise we're all going to be better, not only here in Philadelphia, but around the country. Dr. Dash, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you and all the great work you're doing. I'm hoping that I'm going to get a chance to come back to the Otley House and share some of the resources that I have in our piggy bank as well. So thank you again. You're listening to the Looking Forward Show. My name's Jeff Abramowitz, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.
You've been listening to the Looking Forward Show on WWDB AM Talk 860. If you'd like to be a guest on the Looking Forward Show, or if your organization would like to share an event that they have coming up, or if you'd like to be a sponsor of the show, you can reach us at lookingforwardshow@gmail.com. The Looking Forward Show has been brought to you in part by the PD Green Program. Founded in 2008, the Petey Green program supports the academic goals of men and women behind and beyond the walls of our prisons and jails. Since its founding, the Petey Green program has tutored roughly 16,000 students in over 50 correctional facilities and reentry programs across the country. They've recruited over 3,200 volunteer tutors from 30 universities and do work in over 14 states, including the District of Columbia. If you'd like to learn more about the Petey Green program, you can go to www.peteygreen.org. Petey Green program. Check it out. You can listen to the Looking Forward show on the Looking Forward YouTube channel and coming soon on all of your favorite podcast venues.